Representative Nick Milroy is my guest today on DrydenWire Live's Meet the Candidate. I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching our second of our 12 special DrydenWire Live episodes, Meet the Candidate. Every Friday at 8:30 until the general election, I'll be chatting with a different candidate that is running for political office. For each of the contested races, we will feature a Republican and or the Democratic candidate for that race, with the following week being with the other candidate. We are currently featuring Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District. Last week, the Republican candidate, challenger Keith Kern, was my guest. Democratic candidate, incumbent Representative Nick Milroy is my guest today. Starting next Friday, we will switch to the 75th Assembly District. Representative Romaine Quinn announced he was not seeking re-election, so we'll be chatting with both Republican and Democrat in that race, starting with John Ellenson next Friday. But today, I am very excited to be chatting with, once again, Representative Nick Milroy. Nick, good morning, brother. What's good?
Good morning. Things are going well. Good to see you.
Yeah, I think this may be our first time we've done a virtual chat. I think you were down here once, weren't you? Didn't we do a live chat when in studio? Boy, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it was last summer I was in studio, and it's been an interesting time to do a lot of video chats and different meetings with folks. Right. So happy to be on the show today, that's for sure.
Yeah, how many Zoom calls have you been doing?
I've had about a dozen this week, so it's been pretty nuts.
Just this week?
Just this week, yeah.
Wow. We put up your 15 things you might not know about me, which was featuring you, Nick Milroy. Yesterday we put that up. It's on our website, DrydenWire.com. And those are, first of all, I had a lot of fun reading those. In one of them, you had put, growing up, we heated our house with wood. My brothers and I would cut, split, and stack up to 10 logger cord of firewood every summer. I can relate to that because so did we. Now, when you had your wood stove, was it one of those where it's just that's where it is and that's where the heat comes from, and the further away you get, the colder it gets?
It was. We had a wood stove in the basement, and if you were right next to that thing, it was pumping out a lot of heat. And if you were upstairs in the far bedroom, it was pretty cold. So luckily, my bedroom was pretty close to the wood stove.
Yeah, and that is it. Like you remember on those cold nights, back then it would actually, I kind of feel like it was colder back then. Like it was common for 40 below, and the living room, it's 95 degrees. And then the further away, like our bathroom was like 50. So you just didn't ever want to go to the bathroom. It was like just too far. Nope.
The worst part about having my wood stove, my bedroom next to the wood stove, was it was also near the wood pile. So I would wake up quite often with spider bites because the wood always had a lot of spiders living in it.
Nice. You also put in here, I want to ask you about this before we get to other stuff. Starting in my early 20s, for nearly a decade, I volunteered to sleep outside in the dead of winter to raise money for the homeless. What?
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Dr. John Lang, who's a chiropractor in Superior, started this many years ago. And I asked him if I could join along when I was in my 20s. I thought it was pretty cool what he did. He raised a lot of money for the homeless. And every year we would spend one night outside, build a big bonfire, sleep in a cardboard box. It was a great experience.
Doesn't sound fun at all, but hey, I'll take your word for it. So you were first. You've been in office since, what is that? 2008 was the election, right? Because I think you started in 2009. That was the first time.
Yeah, correct.
So this would be your seventh campaign.
Oh, boy, they all run together. It's every other year.
Every 2 years, too. Right, exactly. So what's different about this race than the last one? And since I started DrydenWire, whatever that was, almost 5 years ago, I don't recall you having a challenger in those races. Have you ever had a challenger?
I have. When I first ran for election, it was an open seat, and there was 5 or 6 candidates that were running. So that was a really tough race. I worked my tail off and met a lot of fine folks across the district. And then when I was up for re-election, I had one challenger. Over the years, I've had some people talk about running, um, but really nothing more than write-in candidates. And to me, I mean, it's nice not having a challenger, but to me, it's really unfortunate because that's not what our democracy is all about. I think people should have a choice in their representation. And a lot of times, the reason why people don't run for office is because of things like how Wisconsin's campaign finance system is set up, or because how the districts have been gerrymandered, that they create, super majorities for each party in certain districts. And that's really been the case in Wisconsin over the last 10 years. It's been, there's been a lot of changes to campaign finance laws that are beneficial to incumbents, and that doesn't bode well for democracy because you don't often get challengers, and a lot of times people don't have a real choice in their representation because with the money and redistricting, a lot of seats are considered safe seats, and there's very few seats across the state that are even in play.
Yeah, if you kind of go into it just thinking, well, I mean, the odds are, it doesn't look good, so why spend the time and why spend the money? Yeah, I guess I can kind of get that. But in your area up there, it's largely been, what is that, blue, right? Democrat?
Yeah, it has. I mean, the seat has been held by a Democrat my entire lifetime. And hopefully after November it will also.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna work hard to make sure that I get reelected. I really enjoy the job, enjoy working with the people, and am just very humbled to serve as a representative for Northern Wisconsin.
So when you go out and talk to people, with the exception of them just asking you a specific question, what are like 2 or 3 things that you always want to make sure that they know about you?
I don't know. I'm more interested in finding out about people and what their concerns are, or what their hopes and dreams are for themselves and their families and their region, than I'm interested in telling them all about me. So, a lot of people, I think a common theme that a lot of people feel, and I feel also, is that we're so far north that we're often forgotten about, not only by politicians, but also by, the financial centers of Wisconsin and a lot of the economic drivers of Wisconsin. And people in northern Wisconsin deserve to have the same opportunities as people from Milwaukee or Madison. And that's always been a big goal of mine, is to make sure that we have fairness in the legislature with whatever legislation is passed, with whatever budget is passed. I want to make sure that we are getting our fair share.
In your time of the 12 years now that you've been there and doing this, and when you go down to Madison, do you find it difficult to get that accomplished?
It is very difficult because not only are we geographically isolated from the capital and the large financial areas of Wisconsin, but we're also politically isolated. And the reason why we're politically isolated is, I tell people that there's only a handful of people that serve in the legislature that are actually from what I consider northern Wisconsin, versus a lot of other areas of the state. The Fox Valley has dozens of people that represent them. Milwaukee has dozens of people that represent them. Madison has dozens of people that represent them. We have, 5 or 6 people from northern Wisconsin that serve in the Wisconsin legislature.
Yeah. Do you find that even in this district, in the 73rd, that the needs of, I don't know what they're called, superiorites? I don't know if that's the right thing. People that live in Superior. Are those different from the needs of people in Danbury, in Burnett County, or in Spooner, in Washburn County?
Definitely. Urban areas have different issues. Superior being a metropolitan area which has its own issues. So there's always, for each community, there's unique challenges, and especially between rural and urban areas, there's a huge difference in the challenges facing each area. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of representation for small towns and rural areas in the Wisconsin legislature. I think I'm probably the only legislator that actually lives on a gravel road. Almost every legislator that I know of lives in a town or city, and we need voices that understand the issues that affect rural and small town Wisconsin in the legislature.
When you talk to those rural and those small towns, what issues are they bringing to you that they are facing?
One of the biggest issues, especially in our area, is road funding. People up here don't have the same ability to maintain their roads as they do in other parts of the state. Part of that is because we have a much more sparse population than even the other rural areas of the state. In the farm areas of the state, which are about 2/3 of the state, you generally have a population that is kind of evenly distributed across the landscape, whereas in the 73rd Assembly District, you get north of Danbury and drive through Dairyland, and there's not a lot of people that live along there, but there are a lot of roads, and they have to be maintained. So for towns to be able to maintain those roads, it's an incredible challenge, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of the district actually doesn't even have paved roads. If you drive through anywhere else in Wisconsin, you'd have a hard time finding a gravel or dirt road, but the 73rd district is full of them. The reason for that is we have a huge logging industry in Wisconsin, and especially in northwestern Wisconsin. We have large forested areas, and to be able to access the forest, to be able to harvest the forest, we have to have roads that cut through the forest. And we need to be able to maintain those roads, not only for our economy, but for the people that live here.
That's fascinating. I never looked at it that way, or I never considered it. Well,
Yeah, I didn't think much of it until I started serving in the legislature and spent a lot of time driving around Wisconsin. And actually, one time I had an emergency where I had to fly home from Madison, and I flew home in like a two-seater, like a Cessna, and it was low to the ground. And I'm taking in the landscape of Wisconsin and how beautiful it is. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in my head that all of those roads are paved. And as soon as we got up to
the 73rd district,
I mean, it was like night and day. All of a sudden, you see sand roads and gravel roads, and I'm like, wow, this is really a contrast.
Yeah. What have you accomplished? Let's just look at the last 2 years. Not necessarily what you accomplished, but what are you the most proud of that you've been able to accomplish in the last 2 years?
Well, I always try to focus on things that are going to improve people's lives in northern Wisconsin. And I've been working very hard to make sure that we secure the largest private investment in northern Wisconsin's history. And that is a partnership between Elite, Minnesota Power, and Dairyland Energy to build a new power plant in Superior that is going to invest millions and millions of dollars into our region. It's going to create jobs. It's going to create a lot of construction jobs. So that's a huge thing. And, so I try to focus on kind of the big picture things that are going to give people opportunities to live and stay in the area, because too often there aren't those good paying jobs and people have to leave for the big city, even though they might want to stay here.
Yeah.
For us to have a robust economy, we have to be able to keep our young people here.
Have you been a part of any of the discussions or bills for broadband? Because it looks like you could use a little bit better broadband. Huh?
Yes, I have long been a strong advocate that, northern Wisconsin, rural Wisconsin deserves the same sort of infrastructure as other parts of Wisconsin. And, that's easy to say, it's difficult to accomplish. We have invested a lot of money, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And never has it become more apparent than during this pandemic, where a lot of people do have Zoom meetings or Skype calls. And I was on one the other day and I got kicked off, and I was talking to a group of about 30 people, and I was kind of the main speaker. So it was a little bit embarrassing, but I live out in the middle of the woods
Yeah.
in a rural area, and that's just one of the things that we deal with.
What did you think of Evers, you know what I mean? The governor's mask mandate.
The governor's mask mandate is something that, I think he listened to public health experts and looked at the science and believed in the science and issued the mask mandate to try to limit the spread of a disease that not only is wreaking havoc on our economy, but it's also costing human lives. So I think the mask mandate, although, nobody enjoys the inconvenience of having to wear a mask or being told to wear a mask, I think it's limited the spread and hopefully will help restart our economy. And that's what we really need to do.
Are the schools up in your area? I mean, you are the representative of Spooner, so I'm sure you know what's going on there. But closer to home to you in Superior, what are the schools doing? Are they reopening? Do they obviously, like most schools, if not all schools, have an option for virtual learning? Is it 5 days a week? Is it in person? And do you think it should be in person, or the state should step in and say, that's it, let's not put this on our local superintendents, we're just going to make a decision right now, here's what we're doing, whatever that decision is?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am extremely grateful for all of the teachers and the administration and staff for all of the school districts that I represent. They've been put into a situation that nobody could have anticipated. And they've been doing a wonderful job to make sure that with the start of the new school year, that people are going to be protected as best as they can. And also for those that are going to be learning virtually, that they have the resources and wherewithal to have that programming up and running. They've been working night and day all summer long. My wife has been a teacher for over 20 years, and she's been working on her lesson plans. It's going to be different for everyone, and we have to make the best.
Yeah. Do you think that this should be a local, a school board and superintendent, a local decision, or do you think it would have been easier to have the state come in whatever capacity that would have been in, and made a decision?
I don't think it would have been real popular for the state to come in and have a statewide mandate on whether or not schools should reopen. I think that we elect local school boards to make the tough decisions for their areas. And every part of Wisconsin faces different challenges, even when it comes to pandemics. So we have to trust that people are going to listen to public health officials, that they're going to believe in science, and they're going to make the best decisions to protect their communities.
How much you've been following with the Democratic convention going on? Excuse me. How much do you follow the presidential race?
For being a politician, I actually don't follow politics very closely. Sometimes it can be a little much, but I did have a chance to see Michelle Obama speak the other night, and I was absolutely blown away. She is probably the most articulate and authentic person that I have ever witnessed in my life, and I kind of wish she was running for public office.
I think a lot of people wish that she was running for an office or the vice president or something. Yeah, have you ever, I'm just curious, have you ever voted for, in any race, local, school, it doesn't matter what it is, ever voted for a Republican?
I don't think that I have. I'm not against voting for people that are conservative. I'm not I have a lot of friends and family that are Republicans or conservatives, and I think it's more important to build relationships and try to work together. But ever since I got involved in politics, I got involved in campaigns and politics when I was in college. It was something that I was passionate about and really believed in the values that the Democratic Party stood for and stands for. And there hasn't been a Republican that I know of that has ran and been on a ticket that I thought would be a better representative than the choices that I've had. With that being said, I've long admired people like John McCain, who is the type of politician, whether you're Republican or Democrat, that I think we need more of in this country. People that are willing to cross the aisle. He had a long friendship with Joe Biden, and he was a conservative. There's no doubt about it. He was willing to work with other people, and I believe he always had the best interest of the country at hand. And those are the type of people we need running our government. We have a lot of people in Wisconsin, both Republicans and Democrats. I'm proud with both parties and try to get things done to improve people's lives.
Well, we're a little over about 22 minutes. We usually go, a little over 30 minutes, but here it's getting it's getting slower and slower and slower. And I think now we're getting some audio stuff. So I just don't want to, give you the opportunity before anything. If something happens here, I want to make sure I give you the opportunity. What do you want to tell people about you? What do you want people to know about this race in the 73rd district?
Well, I just want people to know that I am very humbled to be their representative for the 73rd Assembly District. I work my tail off every single day to make sure that our voices are heard in Madison, and working to bring back as many resources as we can get to improve people's lives in northern Wisconsin. And I would appreciate their support in November so that I can continue doing that.
How do people find out more about you? Do you have a website, or you have the Facebook page, 73rd? Oh, it's a long one. I should have written it down. What's your Facebook page?
So I have a legislative Facebook page that's Rep Nick Milroy and the citizens of the 73rd Assembly District, but I actually just launched my web page, which is nickmilroy.com.
Oh, I'm going to check it out.
And I will be launching my Milroy for Assembly Facebook page, I believe, today. So search for Milroy for Assembly on Facebook, and it'll be a new line of communication for people.
Awesome. And then start working on some of those assembly bills for broadband, buddy. That'd be great.
I need it. You can tell, can't you?
All right, man. Thanks so much. You're welcome on anytime, brother. Good luck to you in this race, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Hey, it's good talking with you. We'll talk soon.
You got it.
Thanks, Ben.
You have been watching Meet the Candidate, special DrydenWire live series. Thank you to my guest today, Representative Nick Milroy, and thank all of you for watching. We'll be back next Friday with our Democratic candidate in Wisconsin's 75th Assembly District, Mr. John Ellenson. Until then, stay safe, keep your social distance, and have a blessed day.